Carl and Liam here from Games, Brains and Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short, and it's We're Afraid of the Dark. Our Are You Afraid of the Dark talk through / review. It's season 2, episode 6, The Tale of the Dark Dragon. Written by Alison Leah Bingham and directed by DJ McHale. So, yeah, regular names are back for this one. A cast for the episode. We got Chuck Campbell as Keith Saunders / Casey. Cara Hivko as Maria, Eleanor Noble as Shelley Bergman, Sean Hayes as Gary March, and Richard Dumont as Sardo. This is Sardo's second appearance in the show and always a welcome face. Even if he doesn't always do a lot, he's overacting. Just, hey, it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, at least you're gonna get something from the episode just by him being in it.
And thankfully, I do like this episode, even though, of course, it is a homage, inspired, if you want, by Robert Louis Stevenson's famous novella, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I wanted to ask you, now, obviously, you know Jekyll and Hyde. Of course you do. Have you ever actually read the Robert Louis Stevenson's novella?
I have not. No.
A few years ago, I realized there were all these classics from Frankenstein to Dracula and so on that I've watched and known from my entire life, but whether I'd actually read the books, I wasn't sure. I wanted a kick. Things like War of the Worlds, Bram Stoker's Dracula, and Robert Louis Stevenson's The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I went and found them out and read them all, just to sort of see, particularly see like how different they were to what I thought, whether or not they were good, whether they held up, and so on. I thought this is only a novella, so it's a short story, but I love it. I loved it. I do urge people to do that. If you know these things so well, go read the original source material. Check it out. You to see if you enjoy it too. Yeah, that was why I brought it up. Other interesting facts about this one. This is the only time a Midnight Society member is shown celebrating a birthday. It's Gary's birthday. It's the only time it happens, apparently.
Happy birthday, Gary.
Indeed. And I thought this was fascinating. Eleanor Noble, who plays Shelley Bergman in this, portrays the role of a mature high school senior. While she isn't given an age, it suggested that she's certainly on the later end of teenage years. She was 13.
Oh, wow.
13. There we go. All right, let's get into the episode. As Gary arrives at the campsite to find no one there, is it a fright? Sort of, as the others use balloons to scare him before everyone pops out and shouts surprise, happy birthday, while throwing streamers. Gary is delighted by the surprise, and I actually really liked it as well, because it's those things that go, they're friends.
Yeah, I do like that, yeah.
And it's revealed that David has written a special story just for him. And David reveals that he's utilized Gary's love of magic and borrowed one of his characters, which Gary's excited to know which one. But David's like, just sit down and you'll find out. It's David's story, taking the storyteller's chair and explaining that his story is indeed about magic, the kind Gary likes, the kind that dazzles and amazes, but is still strangely real. The magic in his story is more intense, the kind that come from incantations or elixirs. A magic that comes from inside of us, a magic that can be used for good or incredible evil. And submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society is The Tale of the Dark Dragon. I got to say, I really love that title.
It's a cool title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you wonder why I love it when it's not really related to the story, the Dark Dragon is often sort of seen as something that hangs over you, something. It can be anything like pressure, depression, stuff like that. Just the darkness that hangs over you. And I think this episode deals with a lot of interesting themes.
Yeah. Also, it's kind of funny how he mentions to Gary, obviously, he's going to use one of his characters within the story. I just thought, like, nah, man, screw that. Think up your own damn characters, bro.
But isn't that kind of cool? It's almost like a respect thing as well. Like, I've borrowed your character. I want to let you know I've done that, and it seems like maybe it's a little taboo to do that.
That's plagiarism.
You God, imagine this. He was like, this story was so good, I'm going to publish it. Doesn't give Gary credit.
He's the Sardo, yeah.
All right, the story begins in a high school library. And Maria is supposedly an average teenage girl who has feelings for her friend Keith Saunders, a quiet boy who has a sweetness to him, proved by the fact that he's brought her some chocolate-covered blueberries. Gross.
That doesn't sound like a good combo to me.
No. Touched by his gesture, she asks about the upcoming school dance, but Keith isn't planning to go because he's not much of a dancer and more of a sit and watch guy. So it feels that we're setting up, he's a little bit of a nerdy character and all that. However, it's not quite that.
Mhm.
As we see Gary Marsh and his friend now arrive playing Keep Uppy with a Hacky Sack. Maria tells them to be quiet, and they do, as Gary reveals to his friend that him and his nearby girlfriend, Shelley Bergman, have had a fight. And in this, Gary ends up knocking the hacky sack to Keith, and in what I think is one of the most well-done reveals possible, it lands by his leg, and we see he has a leg brace on. And I was like,
Mm.
that's outstandingly done.
Yeah, it's a nice way of showing it. Yeah.
And added to that, in a rare moment for the kind of athlete, popular style character, Gary is a decent human being, actually apologizing to Keith, sort of patting him on the shoulder and then leaving. All right, yeah, it's, it's the whole, feel sorry for him, but legitimately, this character is normally not written always horrible, but written in a way that maybe he isn't as, mindful of the injury that clearly affects Keith.
Mm. Yeah.
And it turns out that Keith was involved in a very serious car accident and his leg is messed up. He'll forever walk with a limp, which obviously has an effect on his confidence and self-esteem. I'm this is really good writing. Keep this
Mm.
going. As Keith goes to leave, he bumps into Shelley and she drops her books. And Keith insists on picking them up for her, but uses this opportunity to ask about her plans at the dance. So you're kind of hinting that
Mm.
Shelley is the one we're seeing that Shelley's the one he's interested in, whereas Maria is his friend and he doesn't really notice that she's into him.
Yeah.
Classic.
Teen drama.
Is it? She tells him she's had a fight with Gary and Keith offers to take his place. And I was a little bit like, oh, that's not cool, Keith. Don't be trying to take advantage of a couple having a fight. Be trying to sneak your way in there. We also see Maria watching with jealousy. Though Keith brilliantly gets well and truly friend-zoned, as Shelley's response is to smile and tell him that he's sweet. And I was like, ooh, it's got really cold in here. Oh, that's hard.
Awkward.
But credit to the show. The fact that I felt that, the fact that I was a bit like, oh, I don't know where to look. I'm sitting on my own watching this on my iPad going, ooh,
You're
I feel really awkward.
You're sinking deeper and deeper into your chair.
That's it. After school, it seems as though the place to be is the diner called the Charcoal Pit. And even Keith is there. He's reading a comic book, though, when a knocking on the window gets his attention. It's Shelley. And Keith gets up to greet her. But in another brilliant moment of awkwardness, she was actually trying to get the attention of Gary, walking straight past Keith, and the pair hug, having gotten over themselves. And I was like, God damn, Keith could get, that can't cut you a break.
Yeah.
Keith is dismayed, turns the page to see an advert for Sardo's Magic Shop. The promotional item is a potion it claims it can bring out the best in yourself. And intrigued by this and curious by the advertisement, he goes to the shop to check it out. This is how Sardo enters the store. And have you, not even comic books, but if you kind of read certain magazines back in the day in a certain era, like we would have done in this era as well,
Mm.
these sort of full-page spreads for things
Yeah.
weren't that far out there.
No, they weren't. It's true.
Keith goes to Sardo's Magic Shop and asks if Mr. Sourdough is there. Oh.
This got me actually. I have to say, I actually wrote like LOL sourdough because that was a good one.
Got me too. That's the shit I'm in for, man. Of course, Sardo comes out telling the right to say his name, which is Sardo. No mister and accent on the dough. And
Crowd goes
listen,
wild,
if there's
man.
exactly. If there's a Hall of Fame, it's a,
It's true. When he comes out, you got to stand up. You got to stand up.
it is. Studio audience cheering. Keith explains to him he's come to buy the potion that brings out the best in people. Sardo seems unsure of what potion, just as a wonderful reminder that he is full of shit. Let's not forget that. And he ends up handing him a small golden potion vial, telling him that it's his #1 selling item and it's very powerful and it'll only take one drop at a time. And of course, Keith wants it, but he can't afford it. But as he goes to leave, Sardo blocks his route and ends up taking $20 for it. Because, I mean, obviously, from our perspective, what we know, and as far as he knows, and everyone involved except Keith, it's literal fucking water. Sada goes to get him a receipt. Now, I didn't really notice this the first time, but now I think it's a recurring thing. Why does he insist upon a receipt?
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Keith decides to test it on Sada's rabbit named Harold. Not fucking cool, Keith. I know you don't know what's in it, but you don't know the effect it could have on an animal. That's cruel, bro.
I literally put myself that not cool. You could use it on anything but a poor innocent bunny.
There we go. And it transforms the scruffy-looking rabbit into a well-groomed animal. Pleased with the results, Keith leaves, but we see smoke coming from the rabbit cage and sounds being made by the rabbit that probably aren't good. And coming back from his back room, Sado is shocked to see what happened to Harold as we see the rabbit is turned into a demon-like creature. Two things are amazing about this. Sado's reaction is always funny. Of course it is. But also, hey, that's a wicked practical effect.
Yeah, I thought the puppet they used looked really cool, and but I thought also, even though you highlighted it as being funny, I did think any fear factor or creepiness was automatically ruined by him coming out and screaming, "Harold!"
Yeah, it's
It was
just, I
funny.
laugh. You're absolutely right. It's not scary. It's just comedy more than anything else. So when Keith gets home, he decides to take a drop of the potion, but it causes him pain and he falls to the floor. When he gets back up, he's changed into a small, smooth, and cool character. Mostly it's his hair, though, which is now slicked back. But more importantly, his leg is okay. And before he leaves, he changes clothes, including putting on a leather jacket. Listen, it is really difficult to do legit transformations where one character looks like the same one, played by the same actor, but generally looks different because of not just because of the face, how they look like face-wise, but how they hold themselves. It can be really difficult. It's one of the things why Superman worked, is because Clark Kent and Superman, while it was only glasses, how they acted, how they stood, how they walked, how they spoke, everything was so different. It played tricks in your mind. This does this. I bought into these being two different people because of how he holds himself, how he stood up straighter, how he swaggered. Brilliantly acted.
Yeah, I mean, from a slightly different perspective, personally, I was getting Spider-Man 3 flashbacks a little bit, just a little bit. I was like, oh, where are they going with this? It's going to start dancing and, all that kind of stuff.
The vibe is there purely because of the hair as much as anything for me. I got it too. You're absolutely right. But I am leaning towards a better portrayal than, and plus, like, Spider-Man 3 is old enough now that everybody loves it.
Good point. I mean, it's been meme to death that I think you can't help but love it now.
There we go. Plus also, well, without getting off on a tangent, but Tobey Maguire's totally redeemed himself these days. So there you go.
For sure.
He then heads over to the charcoal pit, going up to Shelley and her friends, oozing confidence and introducing himself as KC, Keith's cousin. And the girls are impressed. And I was like, this episode's getting sexy, man. I'm down.
He's so cool.
Yeah, let's show when you know that Shelley, the girl playing Shelley Bergman, was 13 years old.
Yes.
The next morning, Keith wakes up and the effects have worn off. He's back to his old self again with his injured leg and everything. However, when looking in the mirror, he sees he's grown a few scales on his chest. And that would be, for most people, enough to say, well, I'm not taking any more of that.
Indeed, it would.
Frightened by this, though, he covers up his sweater and leaves for school. Maria's waiting from outside. As they walk together, she asks him about KC. Keith refuses to answer her questions, though. And in school, Shelley approaches Keith and tells him that his cousin Casey's great and wonders if he'll be at the charcoal pit after school. Keith tells her if you want him to be, he'll be there, and Maria wonders why he never told her about his cousin. He's not from around here and all that, and it's like, okay, right, I'm fine with all of this. They are being a little bit blind. Like I feel like one of the characters should have said, God, he really looks like you, doesn't he? Just say that.
Yeah, they could do that.
But hey ho, I also was happy enough with this because Keith is so enamored with Shelley, and love will make you do stupid ass shit. That night, Keith and his father are having dinner, and it seems as though Keith has failed a geometry test. His father is surprised and wonders if the accident has affected his focus. Keith gets a bit frustrated here, but notices some scales in his hands, so he leaves the table to do homework. I like the scene between him and his father. It screams of like things they've not spoken about things. Like the accident is a dirty word. We don't talk
Mm.
about it. So even a mention of it and how it might affect Keith is kind of dismissed. Put it this way, I'm going to suggest something that isn't suggested as an episode, but probably should be there. And it's normally brought up in all these scenarios. Keith could do with a bit of therapy.
Mm. Yeah, it's definitely some complexity from Are You Afraid of the Dark. A little bit melodramatic at times, I thought, but it is what it is.
Oh, well, if you think the melodrama is bad now, I mean, good God. Um, Freaking out in his room, he throws the potion away and puts a black leather glove on. But the phone now rings, and it's Shelley who wants to speak to Casey. Keith pretends to get him, changing his tone to be more Casey-like, and Shelley asks him over to her place to watch TV.
Did he just get invited to 90s Netflix and chill?
Feels like it, right? Keith, while looking at the potion, agrees, and we see him pick up the potion with his gloved hand. And later, it's revealed that Casey and Shelley have had a nice night, and outside he asks her to dance. As Gary apparently hasn't asked her to go to the dance yet, she agrees to go with Casey. So we're gonna get. I'm picturing, Gary and Casey bust up later on. They're having a fight and a ruck and all that. Good fun. The next morning, Keith wakes up and drags himself to the mirror, horrified to see that he is transformed even more. His eyes are dark, he has facial hair and fangs. And I was a bit like, you've just hit puberty, mate. This is what this is.
I do often wonder that when I do these stories and these shows, whether or not they're trying to do some kind of metaphor regarding puberty. Who knows?
Um, God, what we had a previous episode
My
regarding
hairiest
the
was my hairiest adventure, wasn't that in a Goosebumps episode where
it
they so
was,
yeah.
but we also had the one with the mirrors. The boy sucking life force out of people with the mirrors.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, sometime later, Maria is looking for Keith or Casey at the charcoal pit, finding out from Shelley that she'll be going to the dance later that night with Casey. In Sardo's shop, the man is inspecting Keith and his side effects. We do like the fact we kind of just cut directly to that, where it's not been like, oh, he's had to chase Sardo down or anything. He's just gone back there, and Sardo's like, okay, this is odd because Keith asked Sardo what happened to the other people who took it, and Sardo reveals, sorry, there weren't any others. And he's the first one to actually buy the potion, because of course he was.
Mm-hmm.
Sardo looks through his magic book and tells him the reason he's having these side effects is because in order for the potion to bring out the best in someone, someone must fight the dark dragon within. The dark dragon being a buildup of negative feelings and lack of self-respect for themselves. Outstanding. It's
Mm-hmm.
such a simple concept that is open-ended and can be used in some different ways, but also tells you that nobody could take this potion and be okay because we've all got something.
That's true. But I don't know about you, and comparing it to other things as we go on. Did you not also get the haunted mask vibes a little bit from this? Obviously, he
Of
goes
course.
to this like downtrodden sort of person, goes to a store, gets given some kind of item that gives him confidence and power, and then slowly starts to transform him into a monster. I mean, pretty similar.
Absolutely. And you got to learn a lesson. You got to learn some lessons to bring this one back to save yourself as well.
Yeah, you got to like be like happy with who you really are within, kind of thing. It's all about that type of thing, isn't it?
It's a basic story, but sometimes the basic stories, if they're told well, I mean, you're not going to find originality in any of these, in anything really these days. So all I want to see is take a damn story and tell it well. And I think at this point, it's telling it well.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, Sardo doesn't know what the Dark Dragon is, but he shows Keith a mirror and tells him he might be about to find out. And back at the charcoal pit, we see Gary going to see Shelley, wanting to know what time he should pick her up at the dance. However, she reveals that she's going with someone else. And now I am on Gary's side here. If you are a couple, you are boyfriend and girlfriend, it's kind of presumed that, hey, we're going to go to the dance. Why did he have to ask her to the dance? If they're already a couple, like, of course we're going to the dance together. The fact that we're a couple and she's just gone, all right, well, he didn't ask me, so I'm going to go there with someone else.
Hmm.
That's some shit.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Keith arrives home, but he's been followed by Maria, who gets inside and goes to his room. Knocking on the door, she wants to know what's happening to him, but Keith is transforming rapidly now, looking even more monstrous, sounding a bit like it, and he ends up sending Maria away, which he does sadly. Got a little worried here, because I was like, all right, this Maria character might be a little too mopey for my liking.
Yeah, that's true.
That night, proving that he is an idiot, Keith sneaks into school and to his locker where he takes another drop of the potion. He transforms into KC, puts the potion inside his locker before heading off to meet Shelley. Unknown to him, though, Maria has been watching, and when he is gone, she opens the locker and takes a big drink of it. And I was like, well, at least this should be fun, because she's taking a massive drink of it. Don't get me wrong. One massive problem with this is, why did he do this at school? And he did this at school because they needed a way for Maria to get to the potion. If he had done it at home, which is what he naturally should have done, she would never got to it.
Yeah.
At the dance, after seeing Gary with another date, Shelley is having second thoughts about KC. Oh, so you try to make Gary jealous, but now Gary's got his own second date. You're all like, oh, I'm not cool with this.
Playing with their hearts, damn it.
Teenagers, man. The dance is interrupted by the school principal, who gives an award for the best athlete in the school, which Gary wins. School has a best athlete award. Seems a bit like niche.
Yeah, I suppose.
Americans, it's an American thing.
Well, of course.
Taking to the stage, Gary looks to Shelley and dedicates it to her, though. And he tells her that she has the first choice in his heart and would get anything for her to dance the next dance with him. Shelley smiles with tears of joy and happily agrees, leaving Casey heartbroken. No, I was just like, well, there you go, man. It is what it is. Heartbreak happens.
Not for me. Not for me.
But it is very, very over the top.
Mm.
Just about Casey is about to leave, a girl wearing a white dress enters, and he's taken in by her and discovers it's Maria, and her and Casey end up dancing together. So basically, I ain't going to get the one I want, but you'll do.
Yeah.
She reveals to him that she loves him and took the potion to be a pretty girl like Shelley, and he can love her instead. And I was like, oh shit. I know in the concept of the story, this is her dark dragging, but in real life, that is a really worrisome thing, like a really worrisome aspect to have.
Yeah, yes.
Casey is shocked, but Maria starts to feel sick and they go outside for some air. Maria reveals to him that she drank the whole potion and that she did it for him. And I was like, oh, bitch, you don't get to put that. I'll be like, hey, you can't blame me for that. You can't be putting that on me. She begins to rapidly transform into a gross-looking monster. Upset, Keith tells her that he did what he did because he didn't want to be himself anymore. Ever since the car accident, he's never been the same. People stare at his leg brace and he hates himself. I'm like, you know, that's cool. That's maybe the first time he said it out loud. Maybe the first time he's acknowledged his feelings. And I think that's a powerful moment.
Very therapeutic for Keith, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, they ruin it by getting a bit melodramatic with it, as Maria tells him that she doesn't hate him. And Keith hugs her, begging her not to go, and cries tears that drip on her shoulder. And this seems to fix things. And I'm just kind of like, okay, I guess acceptance maybe, or love, or some shit. I don't know. The pair are back to normal as Keith and Maria. And Keith tells an inquiring teacher that he's taking his girl to the dance. And they both happily smile at one another and go back to the dance. And back at the Midnight Society, it's actually really simple. The story ends, everyone smiles, and they all wish Gary a happy birthday. And yeah, there we go. I'm still going to say I like this. I think, considering the short time they've got, they really try to pack a lot in this, and they take it from different angles while using a classic story as its inspiration. It has its problems, in particular some of the writing regarding the character of Maria more than anything else. But as a beginning, middle, and end with lessons to be learned and dealing with issues, I enjoyed that. It felt at least more thought-provoking than the usual stuff.
Well, I'm sorry to be a little bit opposite end of the spectrum here, and a bit of a downer, but I just couldn't live with this rushed ending. I don't think it resolved anything The episode didn't really explain what the potion did. Did it make him realize who he should be with and who he is better suited to? And once he did that, the curse just wore off because of the power of love, which I hate the power of love being used as anything to resolve any situation in any story. I think that is the weakest possible direction you could go. Yeah, but surely it needs to be genuine love, then not just like teen love, you know. But I just don't think whatever they had between them was love. That just seemed like a bit too far fetched for me. Didn't think anything was particularly scary on the whole. I thought it was just a bit of an awkward teen drama, super melodramatic scenes, and kind of confused messaging. I thought it was a horrible birthday present for poor Gary, and a huge waste of Sardo, who wasn't really involved, particularly in the episode. Normally he gets actually involved in what's happening, but he's just a shopkeeper, really. And so it was a huge miss on the whole. But I will say the character work in it and the acting is good. That's it.
Fascinating. This up to this point, I think we've basically been in line with feelings and episodes, what we enjoyed and what we haven't, which was saying to me, I remember thinking about this the other day where I'm like, well, when we get to the tier list at the end of this season 2, it's looking like it's going to be really straightforward, but we've now just hit one where we may actually have having a little bit of a debate over where its position is, and certainly whether it gets through.
I think it really depends on what you're hoping to get from an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark, and this isn't what I'm looking for. You know, that's it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It certainly, I was pleased with it. But there we go. 2 different opposing sides, but meeting on some things you say, acting, character work, and so on. It is episode 6 from season 2, The Tale of the Dark Dragon. What do you reckon? Where do you sit on this one? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website where reviews, news and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at gbhbl. Just search for gbhbl and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.